Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of Trashtalk on Battletech. In this episode, Alacorn. Combat vehicles, while often being regarded as inferior to battle mech in the Battletech universe, are certainly not something a mech warrior should ignore. The Demolisher and the SRM carrier are very infamous for their firepower and generally isn't something you want to see around the corner. And even the SLDF, better known as the Star League Defense Force, wanted a powerful tank for their massive army. Developed by New Earth Trading Company in 2587, the Alacorn earned a reputation among the SLDF as a respectable and effective tank. Even General Alexander Kerensky went off into the periphery with hundreds of these tanks during the Exodus. And then the Second Succession War happened and the tank practically died out until year 3055 as the New Earth finally figured out how to make more of these monsters again. When people talk about the Alacorn, they generally meant the Alacorn Mark 6. Powered by a Pitman 285 extra light reactor, it can reach a top speed of 54 km per hour. Not fast, but for an assault class, this is the perfect speed. Protected by 13 tons of standard armor, it is well protected. Not as much as it could have been, but it's sufficient, since for the most part, the Alacorn relies on the enemies dying before they could even shoot at it. The Mark 6 has a simple but brutal armament of 3 Gauss rifles. These are, by far, the most overpowered weapon in the entire game. Long range, high damage, low heat, and its ammo cannot detonate on top of all of that. Just one has a 2% chance of killing a battle mech on the spot as it can blow right through head armor and structure of a battle mech in one shot. And the Alacorn has 3 of them. This is an absolutely brutal machine. The problem? It's too expensive. A combat vehicle should be 3 things: cheap, reliable and expendable, and the Alacorn quickly failed 2 of that with its price tag of 16 million C-bill, which is more than enough to buy a good assault mech. But, that's only if you measure by C-bill. If you go by battle value instead, the Alacorn is going to destroy everything. Besides the Mark 6, there's also several other variants of this respectable machine. Mark 1 and Mark 2 can just be ignored because they are failed prototypes of the Alacorn. Both the Mark 1 and Mark 2 used standard engine, making them really cheap when compared to the Mark 6, but their armors have some issue. Mark 1 ferrofibrous armor is fragile for some reason and the dev team is simply too stupid to fix it. The Mark II have only 6 tons of armor to carry its big guns, which isn't acceptable for a 95 tons tank. The Mark III is where the modern Alacorn is starting to appear. Equipped with an extra light reactor, the Mark III can easily pack 3 autocannon 10 and still have enough room for 18.5 tons of standard armor with enough ammo to blow up a small town. However, that's one mediocre armament for such a massive and expensive tank, so it quickly faded from history. The Mark IV is basically the same. Except it has a trio of autocannon 20, which is just ridiculous. Like the Mark 6, it has 13 tons of standard armor. As an urban fighter, these armor are more than sufficient to deal with whatever mechs or tanks the Mark IV rests its barrels upon. I recommend 24 of these to wipe the smug of an coordinator's face. And then there's always someone that just think these aren't big enough. This is where the Mark 7 comes in. Instead of 3 Gauss rifles, Mark 7 carried 2 heavy Gauss rifles, some of the biggest gun in the entire game, with nearly 20 tons of armor and 12 tons of Gauss slugs. This is completely ridiculous. With that much ammo, you could have the guns firing for practically every turn and it will still not run dry in a standard length fight. And with that much armor, it can basically just not care about any damage whatsoever. The problem with this variant? It has no turret. The heavy Gauss rifle simply cannot be installed in a turret because it will rip it right out. So if your tracks were blown off, you basically cannot aim and fire the gun with enemies on your rear or sides. So there you have it, the Alacorn. A very expensive tank with a very brutal armament. Simple but effective. Just drive straight at your enemies and keep firing. Anyway, that's all for now and I will see you all next time.